But at no point do you ever think that Captain Hook is less capable than any of the other characters on the show of defeating someone in a sword fight just because he's only got one working hand. What's up, YouTube? I'm Liora Sophie, and I'm an author and a writer and a game designer and all sorts of other things. I write spiritual fiction and urban fantasy, and my current work in progress is a series. The first book is called Witches and Demons. This video is in the context of a collaborative AuthorTuber series for No More Ableism in books, and the idea is to showcase books that do well representing disability and talk about why it's important to represent disabilities properly and well, and give examples so that we can further understand what is problematic about bad representations of disability and hopefully do better. I didn't know I was going to make this video, but I watched Cordy's video about No More Ableist books, and it turns out I have a few things to say on the topic of ableism in books, and so that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. The first thing that I want to say is, why is it important to have books without these negative tropes that we see? And the negative tropes, let me just tell you, one of the things that are really pissing people off to no end are mainly the magical cure trope and the killing off the disabled characters trope, both of which have a lot of negative representation, negative visibility for disabilities. It's not necessarily obvious to people who aren't disabled why this is even a problem. I really loved the movie The Secret Garden as a kid, but it is the godfather of magical cure tropes. The kid, and if you are not familiar with it, it's a classic book. It's almost a fairy tale. And there's a really cute movie. And one of the characters is in a wheelchair, and at the end of the movie, he is able to walk. And the problem with that, the problem with this magical cure trope, it's a little bit more complicated in The Secret Garden because he's actually not disabled. He's actually being poisoned. And that is another problem because it implies that the disability is caused by something in his life that could then be removed, and then the disability would be removed. And that's not true for a lot of people who do have to use wheelchairs. So beyond the fact that now the disability is something that he could just make go away by finding the problem and then working it out, the magical cure trope is problematic because it sends a message that the only way a disabled person can have a happy ending is if they're no longer disabled. And that's just not true. It's just not. The other reason why the magical cure is problematic is because it just removes the visibility. Because once the disability is magically cured away, then you don't have the disability anymore. So there's no representation. I want to say as well that it's okay to grow and change your opinions over time. And it's okay if you love a book and it also has one of these problems. There are, a lot of multiple layers to books, and a book can be great and also have a problem in it. Probably my all-time favorite representation of disability in books is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, which is just told from the perspective of an autistic person. And it's got nothing really to do with the plot of the book. He's just an autistic person who's solving a mystery, and it's really awesome. It just gives you insight into how he thinks and how he works, and a couple of intimate details that sort of allow you to really connect and feel it. And that was really great. And at no point is the disability shown as something negative. I mean, you see ways that he struggles with interacting with the world and ways that the world doesn't accept him, but he himself, the character, Christopher, is that his name? I don't know, so many years ago since I read it. He doesn't let his disability hold him back in solving the mystery. He doesn't feel like he can't be a mystery solver just because he's disabled. And since I am freshly obsessed with this, I do want to honorably mention The Raven Cycle, The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, with one small detail, because disability is not really a main theme in the series, but and spoiler alert, because do skip ahead if you've not read the books. This is a kind of an important point for the first book. It's a spoiler for only the first book. Adam loses the hearing in his left ear at the very end of the book, and that is brought up a couple of times throughout the series, and you can just from the moments that it's mentioned in a way that you sort of brings up a small intimate detail, like his father is yelling at him and he yells into his left ear, and so Adam doesn't hear it, and then his father gets mad, like, why are you ignoring me? And that, it's just a little detail that makes you think, oh my god, he's not ignoring him, he just didn't hear because he's yelling into his left ear. Or he talks about putting his earbuds, accidentally putting both of his earbuds in. These little details that don't hinder Adam at all as a character in his quest, and don't, they is not just supposed to be funny and portrayed negatively. Adam is a fabulous character with a beautiful arc, and it's just, he isn't represented by this disability. It's just also something that he has that is part of the story and part of his experience, and it's just mentioned in that way that is visible. And so I want to say, so I felt like I don't think I'm qualified really to say whether it was good representation or not, but I do think that I liked that it was just there. It was there, and it was seen, and it wasn't negative or positive, it was just there. Another thing that I have become recently obsessed with is the TV show Once Upon a Time. I know I'm late to the game, there's a whole story behind why I haven't seen it until now, whatever, but here is some really awesome physical disability representation on TV, which is Captain Hook. Captain Hook only has one hand, and the other hand is a hook. And there is humor around his hook, but it's just completely fine humor because it's hilarious. He's got a hook for a hand, but at no point do you ever think that Captain Hook is less capable than any of the other characters on the show of defeating someone in a sword fight just because he's only got one working hand. There's even this moment where he is fighting he's fighting Blackbeard. He's having a sword fight with Blackbeard, and Blackbeard pulls out a second blade, and you're just like, oh, wait a minute. Blackbeard's holding two swords. That's not fair. Captain Hook's only got one. But then you look back and it didn't occur to me, at least, that Captain Hook wouldn't be able to defeat Blackbeard, even though Blackbeard's now got two swords, because he's such a badass. Captain Hook is such a badass, and he's so capable of getting by and fight and doing everything he needs to do, and even though he's only got one working hand. On the other hand, it doesn't completely dismiss the disability, because he does mention it. They're climbing a beanstalk, and he says, you need to give me back my hook. I can't climb the beanstalk one-handed. And so he does address the fact that, yes, he's only got one hand. There's some things he can't do, but it's not, it's not defeating Blackbeard in a sword fight. I mean, please. There's an episode which really brings this to light in season 4, I think, where he has an opportunity for the magical cure. He has an opportunity to magically reattach his hand, and he wants it, and he seeks it out, and you can see the process that he goes through with why does he even want his hand back if his hook serves him so well, and on the other hand, what are the consequences of those actions, and what is the choice that he makes afterwards, which is he goes back to the hook, and for a beautiful reasons. And I thought that was just fabulous, just really well done. Honestly, Captain Hook in Once Upon a Time is not only smoldering and snarky, but excellent disability representation. And now for a little bit of shameless self-promotion, because I have some disabled characters in Witches and Demons, and the first is Quiero, one of my protagonists, who struggles with depression and a little bit of suicidal ideation, suicidal thoughts, which has a content warning attached. So if people are triggered by that, there is something that prepares them for it and sort of says exactly where it is, and to help people just be able to read that or choose to skip it and still not lose the story. So Quiero struggles with depression, and while it is certainly a major part of his character, it's not something that inhibits his abilities in any way, and it doesn't make him less of an awesome character because of it. And he's also not shown as he struggles, he has a character arc, he grows and learns, but he's mostly shown in a positive light. And the fact that he has depression is just a part of who he is, and he struggles with it, but it doesn't make him a scary demon bad guy that nobody wants to hang out with. Actually, some people really want to hang out with him, so much that, they're willing to risk things. Eden. Okay. So that's Quiero. And the other main relevant point for the disability theme, which is in my books, is that book 2, which I am drafting currently, is really centered a lot around the concept of challenging inspiration porn. There are 7 types of demons, and each of them corresponds to one of the 7 deadly sins. And the book 2 is kind of concentrated mainly on the demons that are the craft demons, what I used to call technology demons. They can their powers are sort of like with electrical stuff and computers and things. That type of demon corresponds to the deadly sin of sloth. And the reason that this is all relevant is because the major theme in book 2 is combating the ideation of there's no such thing as impossible. There's no can't, there's only won't. And if you want something hard enough, you can just get it. This is a theme, a belief that Lido, who is the main character in book 2, just struggles with. It pisses him off every time someone around him says it, and that the reason it pisses him off is because he has a younger sister named Shia who has Down syndrome. Shia has existed pretty much since the beginning of when I thought of this, of the idea of this book. I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely influenced by the fact that there was a person at that time in my life that was very close to me who has Down syndrome, and so yeah, absolutely it's inspired by that. They go down this path that challenges the concept of the magical cure trope. I don't think I've ever read a book with a character with Down syndrome, so why don't we start with that? Shia's definitely shown in a positive light. She's a really great character, and she's not inspiration porn, she's just awesome. She's just a great character. And just Lido is fiercely protective and of her and loves her a lot, and they have a deep sister-brother relationship, and it's just real. That's all it is. It's just real. It's just a real person. Please go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel to hear more of my strange thoughts about books and TV and the things that I'm working on in my writing, and I'll see you around the tube. Okay, bye!